Okay.
All right.
Yep.
What else? What else?
Let's talk about this guy right here.
Oh, this guy. Well, this is in the third pocket. This is so important. I would say before you open it, for everyone here, this is probably the most important thing you should have at work if you're an on-air talent. So why don't you open her up? It's
oh my gosh!
It's just
it's a hair comb.
Too good. You know us well.
It's a hair comb.
Lauren, do the honors.
It's a hair comb. You gotta tease your
Does it
hair.
work? I think it
you
works.
gotta get it. You gotta make sure you still
Get in
are on
there.
air ready in
I thought
disaster.
it was a pocket knife or something
At
like
the
that.
end of the day, you're gonna be broadcasting, so you know.
Yeah, and I say to
There you
people
go.
all the time, as I say, you want to look really good because the perception is when they see you, if your hair's all out of mess, they're going to say, what's going on here? So you want to
people
look
are going to panic. The hair is a miss.
really good. So a couple of other things before we move on.
September is National Preparedness Month. The LA wildfires in January is a reminder that an emergency can happen at any time, and it's best to have a plan ready just in case you have to leave at a moment's notice.
Patrick Hardy, also known as Disaster Patrick, like what a great name. It is preparedness. You're a preparedness expert, and you have brought plenty of things to get us prepared.
Absolutely.
So obviously the LA wildfires happened so quickly, and people were racing, just to get out. And I think a lot of us, even though we're supposed to have those earthquake kits and things done, we weren't prepared to leave with some of this stuff.
Well, and I think the fundamental thing that I tell everyone is the first thing you've got to do is before you touch any of these things or worry about, should I have flashlights or should I have a first aid kit, is this: are you going to evacuate, shelter in place, or lockdown? In any emergency, whether it's a hurricane or an earthquake or an alien invasion, whatever it is, you got to just make that decision. And what I tell people is what goes in your backpack tells me the options you have of how you're going to evacuate, how you would shelter in place, and how you would lock down. It leaves those options open. So everything we're going to talk about today is going to show you how to expand those options out.
Gotcha.
So good. I had to evacuate in January. I was not prepared at all. So this is good information.
Yeah,
easy for you to be able to access it.
And Patrick, bottom line is this can all fit in a backpack.
This right here.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in fact,
So cool.
I wanted to sort of surprise you both. These backpacks are for you.
Thank you. I love a backpack.
And what I tell people is start with an empty backpack.
Okay. Yeah.
Always start with an empty one. Build it to what you need.
Very smart. Disaster Patrick, my favorite title I think ever.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You have a method, the 5-pocket method. What is that? Explain.
I do. It's a method I've been using with clients for a long time. And what I tell them is I said, it doesn't have to be complex. You don't have to grab everything out of your pantry.
Right.
What I want you to do is I want you to focus on 5 different pockets full of resources that you're going to need to get to the next evacuation location or the next shelter in place. So what I talk about is the physical side. So making sure you have the necessary food, water, masks.
Right.
Then I talk about the psychological side. And this is where it's really important because we were talking about earlier about remaining really calm and collected.
Yes.
And what I tell people is to stay focused, take something with you that will relax you.
Okay.
Disasters are going to be, you're going to be anxious.
Stressful.
It's going to be stressful. And so you want to have something with you that's going to center you. Then personal side, so things like glasses, clothes, your keys. Medications.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then your phone. Your phone. You got to have your phone with you or some kind of communication device. And then the last one is your papers. And a lot of people forget about that.
Right.
And what I generally refer to that as like your ID.
Yeah.
So you want to have your driver's license. It could be expired. It could be an expired passport. Anything that identifies you as you, because that's what the government is going to need if you want to access resources if you're far from home. What the conditions are, because we know in Los Angeles, I actually grew up in Orange County.
Okay.
So I grew up with the Santa Ana winds.
Right.
I grew up in wildfires. The 1993 wildfire I remember distinctly. And I remember all the hills being on fire. And my dad always said, we're going to have 2 routes out. So if one is blocked, there's always a backup. And he told me that. Always have a backup place to go because otherwise you're letting the conditions dictate what you're doing.
The most important decision, without question, is are you going to evacuate? Are you going to a shelter in place or are you going to lock down? Because that is the foundational choice that's going to determine everything else. And when I ask people, when I talk to people and I talk to my clients about this, I say in every disaster, whether it's a hurricane or it's an earthquake or it's a raging wildfire, we have to make those decisions and that decision is going to change. And I was just hearing the report a little earlier that the wind direction can change, the weather can change very rapidly. That is going to change that decision, and that's why that is so important because it will dictate how you're going to be able to access those 5 things on your person, or whether someone else is going to be able to provide those to you.
And I'll let you go on this one. Any suggestions about how to handle money? Should people have cash ready for in case of emergency? Should we just stick to credit and debit cards or what have you? How would you suggest that? Being able to, hey, I may not be able to get back to my house for a couple of weeks. How should they prepare?
Yeah, one of the things you and I talked about yesterday, I think still applies with this as well, which is one of the areas I talk about is papers. And within papers, we talk about money, right? So what I say to people is never rely on just one method of payment. So if you have a credit card, terrific. If you have a debit card, terrific. If you have cash, terrific. But you should have all 3, because there may be times where one may not be available. There may be times where you may not be able to access an ATM. There may be times where credit cards are not available or your debit card isn't available. So when you have a multitude of ways of making those purchases, you're never going to be put into a situation where you don't have access to the money that you need when you need it the most.
And who better to talk to than the guy who has taken on so many disaster challenges? Meet Patrick Hardy, CEO.
And you're the pro here. What are the things in there that are good ideas? What are the things in there that really are unnecessary? Can you sort of separate those for us?
Absolutely. One of the things for sure that I tell people all the time is you don't need 1 flashlight. You don't need 2 flashlights. You need 3 flashlights. That's one of the things you should always have. You should always have 1 flashlight, which should be what we call a wearable flashlight. So when you're walking around in the dark, you don't want to be holding a flashlight in your hand. So you should use either a miner's flashlight, which is one of the ones that goes across the forehead, which is oh so stylish. Or you should put it right here on the lapel, right? So that's one I have also. I have one that you can clip. And then the other one is you should have a hand flashlight. And then the last one is like a camper's flashlight, which is you can put in a room, which is one of those ones you can pull up and you can leave it on a desk. That gives you light, ambient light around the room. Those are the 3 flashlights. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see whenever people buy these backpacks is flashlights, because lighting makes such a big difference. Now is the time to get yourself empowered, because one of the things that happens when we experience disasters is people say, I'm dependent on someone else, or I'm dependent on someone to be able to provide me with things. And I say, now is the best time to equip people. So it's a time where I really start to say to folks, I say, if we're going to get things, if we're going to get emergency supplies, emergency equipment, whatever we buy, it's got to empower us. It's got to make us better in the things that our disaster plans talk about, or whatever, whether we're evacuating or we're sheltering in place or we're locking down. Whatever we're doing, we want to make sure that the equipment and supplies that we're buying are really helping us.
So what do you recommend when we all put our go bags together, and everybody needs to have one? There are ways to do it that may be better than other ways. Could you illustrate for us what we need in our disaster preparedness bag?
Today, here's what I've done. I bought a backpack here, and I'm going to tell you exactly the advice I tell every single client. Small businesses, large companies. I work with high net worth families. I work with all kinds of folks. No matter what, I tell them the same thing. So I bought this emergency backpack here. This is one you can buy at any store. You can buy it at one of those big box stores, Walmart or Home Depot or one of those. And generally speaking, what I tell people is that if you are really determined to buy a backpack, the very first thing you should do is you should unzip it all the way across, which is what I've done here, and take it, and you should dump
it out.
Everything out of it.
And do these
you should dump the entire thing out?
So Patrick, when you bought that, it was actually at the store as a disaster preparedness backpack.
It was. It was a disaster backpack. And I said, today, I just wanted to show people that what you have to do is you empty it. And people say, why should I start with an empty backpack? And I said, because you take the empty backpack and now you can customize it directly to you, that you can make sure that what's in there fits you. And in addition, one of the things I said to people is I said, you should test everything. You should test the tape. Does the tape work? Do the glow lights work? You should taste the food. Is the first aid kit, is this working? All this stuff. Do the batteries work? Does the flashlight work? Best we find that out now than when the skies start to darken and we start to wonder if that backpack that we bought months ago is really going to help us out.